Things went against them at certain times, the missed penalty from Tielemans, the injury to James Maddison, but Brendan Rodgers still delivered the result that everyone was after, a result that may be the undoing of David Moyes as many of his players crouch down. It's the kind of look from them that really signals the end of an era. Who knows what it is for them, but Leicester City right now heading on up towards the top half of the table and sign off for the World Cup in style, Matt Elliott, after goals here from James Maddison and Harvey Barnes.
Yeah, very efficient, very controlled performance, kept the home side's opportunities to an absolute minimum, didn't they? Danny Ward was quite accomplished with what he had to do, but he didn't have that much to do. West Ham have got their struggles, that's for sure. Leicester's made the most of the situation, didn't they? I didn't think they played particularly well in terms of fluency and attacking flair, etc. But when they did get forward, they always looked a threat. Had that better cutting edge about their play. Barnes, Daka at times. Maddison, when he was on the pitch, obviously made a difference. Vardy, when he came on, gave that little bit of nous as well. But good, solid performances throughout, typified by the two performances of the centre halves.
And James Maddison walking back on the pitch here at the moment in his tracksuit and looking like he's okay, and talking to Jared Bowen, and well, his demeanour at the moment looks positive, let's say that. We'll get the full SP from Brendan Rodgers post-match, but I'm going to say season's greetings to everyone. Happy Christmas, Matt Elliott. It's the last game I'll do before the big day, so
thank you,
I'll be back on Boxing Day. But well done, everyone. Well done, Leicester City. Winners here at London Stadium as they sign off for the World Cup. Full-time score: West Ham 0, Leicester City 2.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, brilliant result down in East London for Leicester City there, beating West Ham by 2-0. Matty Fryatt and Jerry Taggart alongside Matt Elliott will dissect that victory and 3 points. And Jerry, at half-time, we were sort of saying it was good, but it could have been better. It ended up better, didn't it, in that second half? A 2-0 victory and all 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, second half, tactics changed slightly. So Brendan stopped trying to play out from the back from the keeper, went a bit longer, which meant when West Ham picked the ball up, they were trying to attack from the edge of their own middle third or inside their defensive third. We said in the first half, they weren't cutting through Leicester with their scintillating football. It was more pinching Leicester's pocket on the edge of Leicester's defensive third. So they moved that higher up the pitch. That second half defensive performance as a whole was reminiscent of the title winning side. Not a lot of possession, but they just hit them on the counter-attack. Good night and God bless. Absolute classic counter-attacking goal again from Leicester City. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think tactically, in that second half, with that switch, Brendan got it absolutely spot on. Yes, West Ham had the majority of the possession, but again, never looked like trouble in Leicester because they were being asked to try and build an attack from further back within their own half than on the edge of Leicester's own defensive half. So tactically, absolutely spot on from Brendan Rodgers.
Yep, were you impressed today?
I was optimistic before the game began, and even at half-time, I didn't think West Ham didn't seem to have a real cutting edge about them. There's some half moments. There was the save from Danny Ward, but all in all, I wasn't sitting there watching the game thinking West Ham are totally on top of it, even though they were getting second balls and building a little bit of momentum. But you'd expect that as the home team. They're going to put a bit of pressure on. But Leicester were able to withstand that in the first half, and obviously could have been further ahead. And then second half, can't really remember too many times Danny Ward was posed a question, and if anything if the ball was into the box or cross, there was Wout Fast, Daniel Marty, Luke Thomas, who came in, did really well, solid defensively, and then they're always a threat from the counter. And Harvey Barnes, great bit of play by Perez for the second goal, and then Harvey Barnes is in great scoring form at the minute. And Leicester did have too many chances, but real clinical threat on the counter, and all in all, it's a fabulous away performance. And the only down point of it is this World Cup break, because Leicester are in really good form at the minute.
Yeah, that's now what, 3 away wins on the bounce for Leicester, all to 0 as well. Matt, how impressed were you with the Foxes today? We said it was a pretty much perfect away performance against Everton. Was that close? Was that similar?
Yeah, I don't think it was quite as attractive on the eye in terms of. I think Leicester played a little bit better football in terms of creative sense, maybe against Everton. A little bit more in control of the game generally. But although you always felt that today was going to be Leicester's day, really, mainly because of the shortcomings of West Ham more than anything, I felt. But Leicester they're well organised, well disciplined, they're in good shape about the majority of the time. A couple of casual moments, and as the boys mentioned at half time about they were treading a fine line at times, sort of almost inviting West Ham back into the game, but they didn't have the quality to do that. And then I think they came to grips with it a bit better in the second half. West Ham huffed and puffed, really, without looking like they were actually going to make an impression. And as Matt has just said there, Danny Ward was hardly brought into action at all, and you just felt if Leicester could just click 1 or 2 more times on that counter, that go and finish the game off, and that's what happened. But I said at the time of the substitution, Jerry was saying about tactically, Brendan Rodgers has got it bang on. That's the way it worked out, isn't it? I think, I'm sure some supporters would be thinking, oh, why take Tielemans off? We've got Maddison off already. Where's our creativity going to come from? Go and finish the game off. West Ham are there for the taking, but Brendan Rodgers went for the secure, more sort of defensive-minded option, bringing Ndidi on, shoring things up, and in turn, that allowed Leicester to be that bit more solid, and then have that ability to break on the counter and have more thrust as it worked out. And Ndidi coming on in that holding midfield role, the two of them pairing up, Soumaré and then Mendy later on, just sort of provided that barrier, didn't it? And you could sort of feel the frustration and the exasperation of the West Ham players, thinking, whatever we do today, we're not going to get through these lot. And that was quite pleasing to see, because you don't always associate that side of the game to Leicester.
I think I missed it, Matt, or did we get your man of the match? Who impressed you the most today?
Well, anyone across the back four. I don't think there was too many outstanding, exhilarating performances. But from the off, first challenge of the day, Daniel Amartey was strong and physical. I think it was Jared Bowen he put on the floor, and he almost declared, "That's not happening, mate. That's my ball." And from then on, in his defensive actions, I thought he was excellent. The basics of actual defending. A couple of times a little bit loose with his passing distribution, as is sometimes the case with Daniel. But Wout Faes gets a lot of praise, rightly so, recently. And Leicester have improved their discipline and their organisation lately, partly down to Faes, and I thought he was hugely influential again today. But sometimes I think he looked elsewhere a little bit, mixed it up a bit. Daniel Amartey, him in a pairing with Faes today were superb, I thought, in their defensive displays, what they had to do. And they kept that clean sheet, they kept Danny Ward protected, and I was quite happy to give him the nod for a change.
Are you in agreement, Jerry, with Matt there?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I wasn't expecting that, Dave.
It wasn't a game for the purists, I have to say. Let's face it. So when that is the case, unfortunately, you're looking at your back line. And Dan Amartey, solid as you like. His aerial challenges. He made a great challenge on Samaka later on the second half, where I think it was Bowen got to the byline, I think, and he's pulled it back to Samaka. Textbook centre half defending. Pick your man up, follow his run, and get your challenge in. And he did that. And he was solid all day. The pair of them were. The pair of them were solid. It was going back to Morgan and Hoof. It was. They're just, that second half, textbook away performance. Sometimes in a game of football, you've got to know what you're getting and what you're not getting. And in that second half, Brendan Rodgers realised that we're 1-0 up. We're trying to play football. It's not working. We're just going to have to hit these lot on the counter attack when the chance arises. That's why he made the change. That's why he brought Perez on for that creativity still in the attacking half. But he shored it up by bringing in Didi and Mendy on. And it worked an absolute treat. So, yeah. And Dana Marti was along with White Fast and Luke Thomas as well. Were integral to that, as were the other two lads in the back. But I thought them three in particular were excellent.
Yeah, the man of the match poll is up on Twitter again, as you can see on the right-hand side there. Danny Ward edging it at the moment.
Yeah, he did his job, performed well. Obviously, the save mentioned at half-time from Ben Rama and everything that was asked of him, he performed his job well. But I'd echo the same as obviously Matt and Jerry. I thought Daniel Marti, and he could have even got a goal where he went on that run. You don't normally see that from him. Had a good shot from distance that was tipped over. Would have been unbelievable. It opened up for him, and obviously taking responsibility, and why not try a strike from distance. But defensively, from minute one, that tackle on the Bowen in terms of physical contact, you're not having anything, shoved him off the ball, and anything that was crossed or runners coming from deep, everything was tracked, defended well, and just solid. And the contrast from 7 games previous where the defence was all over, huge gaps, and then now with Amati coming into the back line, obviously Wout Faes, who's come in and been immense, Luke Thomas back into the team today with the misfortune of James Justin, but Danny Ward, the confidence that's gone through him, and every time the defence is breached, he's there making huge saves at vital times. But it's just that foundation starts from the defence, because we all know the talents that Leicester possess going forward, but defensively they've been spot on with obviously now 6 clean sheets out of 7, 6 out of 8, so moving in the right direction. But I think West Ham could have been there all day. They could have been into Boxing Day and still wouldn't have scored. So that just shows from where I was watching at the beginning of the season, where the opposition attacked, and every time they attacked you thought they was going to score, but now it's chalk and cheese and looking so solid and just resilient, doing the horrible things well, and everyone's in it together, and obviously got enough of a threat on the counter.
Yeah, I absolutely deserves credit, doesn't he, Luke Thomas, Matt, for coming in at left back, as we know, hasn't had a huge amount of football this season, but to come in and play as well as he did was very impressive. I think he intercepted it, didn't he, which led to the second goal.
Yeah, there were no fears about Luke Thomas coming in. I think Brendan Rodgers has got a lot of confidence in him. He's an FA Cup final medal winner, isn't he? And he's played his part over a period of time now. He's got a tough task, establishing himself regularly in that starting 11, such as the quality of Leicester's squad. But I never really feel nervous him coming into the team as if he's like a weak link. Far from it. And he's a fully fledged member of the squad, isn't he? So I didn't expect anything else from him, to be honest. I think a couple of times he was a bit frustrated with his distribution when he had a couple of opportunities to play in Harvey Barnes, but generally he was neat and tidy on the ball. He was given the ball. Leicester were playing it in deep areas in the first half quite a bit, and he was given the ball in tight situations, but he wriggled out of it against Jared Bowen. He at worst sort of won a throw in, or he could cut inside and just give the easy ball, etc. He was solid, more than spectacular, but it was one of those games, wasn't it? And he sort of enjoyed the task, enjoyed the test. The more the game went on, sort of warmed to it, didn't he? And he was he was a huge part of Leicester's defensive display and the clean sheet today, and that'll do his confidence a hell of a boost. And Brendan Rodgers will see. It's nice, it's comforting to have that reliance on, even though you're missing 2 top-class international fullbacks, you've still got high-quality players to replace them or play instead of them. And fair play to Luke. He was part of a very solid all-round performance. Yeah,
I think, Jerry, that he'll be probably, along with most of the Leicester players, disappointed that the World Cup is coming round now, because Leicester on this fantastic run of form. Luke there himself has had 2 good games back to back.
No, absolutely. And also, how is Harvey Barnes not in the squad? That's what I can't get my head around. I don't know if he was in the manager's thinking or not, but I mean, he is clinical at the minute. I mean, and that's what you need at a World Cup. It doesn't matter how well you play. It's about being clinical in crucial moments in a game. And again, Harvey Barnes, I mean, as clinical as you like. And I'll tell you another thing, Don. He's picked that ball up in his own half, let it off, and sprinted 50 yards to get on the end of that pass. I mean, if that's not game-changing quality, I don't know what is. Before he slotted it home. Absolutely incredible fitness levels. And then at the end of it, have the composure to bang that ball in the back of the net. Amazing. But yeah, I suppose it's one of those, it's a tough one for Brendan in regards to how do you keep that momentum that you've obviously got now, but you know, the stats are there for everyone to read, the clean sheets, the goals away from home. And now you've got a month off. I know there's some training sessions going on and some trips and some games have probably been organised for the break, but it's a bit of a tough one. But it's the same for everybody, I suppose, with this World Cup break coming up.
He took his goal brilliantly, didn't he, Harvey Barnes? Obviously, as a former forward yourself, did you ever aim to go through the keeper's legs? Because you often see finishes like that.
You do. You sort of know where the keeper's at, but you don't intentionally, well, I never did that, intentionally look to go through the keeper's legs. But if you take it early and it's too quick, too much pace on it, and normally the keeper's spread, and then it sort of inadvertently goes through his legs, but you're not intentionally going for it. But as Jerry said, I think Harvey Barnes for England's gone under the radar in terms of his goal output. Last year he scored double figures across the season. This year he's well on the way to double. Is it 6 in all competition? Well, is it 6 in the Premier League? Something like that. So he's one that goes under the radar. Maybe question marks about his consistency against the top teams. That little bit of composure. But you saw today on the breakaway and that pace, the strong running, so quick. And that's a threat for it against any team, that pace. And you just think at times, you saw it at Wolves, and when he's facing up a defender, it's so difficult to defend when he can knock it and go, and then on the counter there, and when he's in them positions, he's clinical. Yeah. But he has gone under the radar, he's one of them. But in terms of numbers, again, Maddison scored, Harvey Barnes, again, the numbers are so good that it's hard to ignore that. But for some reason, Harvey Barnes seems to have gone under the radar, not got sort of the accolades or attention that his performances have deserved in terms of sort of nationwide into obviously Gareth Southgate and the England squad. So it's one of them. It's surprising, but obviously Leicester more than capable, more than aware of his capabilities, and today showed that again.
Yeah, there's not been a huge amount of outcry, as you said, for the fact that he isn't in the squad, which is surprising.
It is. I think from a Leicester perspective, you'd be looking at someone like Barnes, but again, maybe it's the so-called bigger teams, your Man City, Chelsea, those teams where Man United, where they look at those players when some of them haven't played a huge amount of games. Harvey Barnes playing week in, week out and scoring. The numbers speak for themselves, and obviously the speed and the running power that he shows, that it's dangerous. It's hard to defend against when you've got that speed, and then when he's in them positions he can finish. But for some reason he's just sort of been ignored on the international scene, and he just needs to keep on doing the same things that he's doing for Leicester, and hopefully in time he'll be given that opportunity in terms of national football. Yeah,
it was his first Premier League goal as well, Matt, came at the London Stadium. He clearly enjoys playing there.
Yeah, I can remember that goal. It's like hit across, was it to the far post,
yeah,
or just like, not scuffed it, but it rolled across the turf, didn't it? And yeah, from that moment on, you know, getting his first Premier League goal, straight away you were thinking, you were just sort of wondering to yourself, how many is he going to end up with? Because you know he's going to have a very decent career even at that early stage. And again, yeah, it's a little bit of a conundrum with Harvey, isn't it? He's different, isn't he? He's more direct, and that was him. That was his absolute, in his prime there, wasn't it? Breaking, as Jerry says, at that relatively late stage of the game, he's got that athletic endurance and ability and determination to make that lung-busting run. and boy was it worth it. And but to have that fitness at that stage of the game, that's something in itself. And then the ability he has as well. Although, as Matt mentioned, and I'm in agreement with it, he's just that little bit consistent sometimes. But it's not a bad thing to want more from him, because and set targets for himself as well, because he's capable of even more, I think. And his stats and his performances aren't bad as they are, but yeah, he gives something different, doesn't he? I think he's a little bit early this time around for the World Cup, but he's got to be striving to get into the England squad in the not too distant future, because he's more than capable of it. Don't settle for sort of second best. He's got so much potential that he can go and be on, get into the England squad and be a major factor and a big impact in the England team. I think he has that possibility. There's lots of competition, of course, but he's absolutely vital to Leicester today. Like in particular when Maddison, scores the goal, his influence is taken out of the game with the injury. Tielemans is withdrawn sort of tactically, but Barnes just gives that. He maintains that thrust, doesn't he? And it doesn't always surface. But even when he's having a bit of a quiet game or an inconsistent game, when he gets it right, he's still capable at any time in the game, whether it's first or last minute. It was a great attribute to have.
Yeah, you've really got to praise Jose Perez as well, haven't you, Matty, for his role in the goal?
Yeah, coming on and making a difference. That's what you want from all the substitutes. Made a difference today. And when you're called into action, you want to show what you can do. And there you touched on Perez, got the ball, received it, great reverse pass, and then Barnes is onto it. And like Matt said, he's got that endurance, that speed, and bursting on. That is a typical Harvey Barnes type of goal. It's either the 1-2 or coming off the line, great big run, and then the finish on the end of it. But I think in terms of, if you're looking at Barnes, it's sort of, he offers something different. It's that directness, and defenders don't like that. And you can see with his goals, he's bursting beyond the back line and then he's finishing. But it all starts with obviously Luke Thomas intercepting, and then the beautiful little reverse pass by Perez, where could have been one of those ones that it's thinking, when's the opportunity going to arrive, comes onto the pitch and makes a real difference in a killer pass.
Brendan Rodgers has apparently told the media that James Maddison's injury was only a precaution. That's why he was brought off. So fingers crossed he'll be okay for the World Cup. That's twice in a week, Jerry, that Harvey Barnes has scored a vital goal that has obviously made it 2-0 in both the Everton game and then this one today, killing the game off effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And the lads have pretty much nailed it. It's having that endurance at the end of a game when it's a tight game to just sign, seal, and deliver it. And yet again, he showed that he is the man for the job. It was all right. It was a different goal to the goal at Everton, but again, it's all about having that endurance, the composure, which has obviously improved over his time in the first team, and the ability to kill the games off. It's all right getting into those positions, and Matty Fryatt's a better man than me to tell you about that. But, it's all right getting in those goal-scoring positions, but then to finish that game off in those moments, it's something we've lived on and hoped for from Jamie Vardy for the last 9 or 10 years, however long he's been at Leicester. And now you've got Harvey Barnes, who's in tip-top form, and killing games off right at the death, just when you need it most. And I'm talking from a centre-half, from a defender's point of view, i.e. you've had to weather the storm for however many minutes, and you're hoping and praying as a defender that someone at the other end of the pitch can just see the game out, kill the game off, and that makes all your hard defensive work, i.e. Amati, Fass, Castagna, Danny Ward and Luke Thomas, make all that hard work, all that grit and determination pay off. And that's exactly what he's done in the last 2 games.
It says a lot about Harvey Barnes, Matt, doesn't it, at the moment, that when he was through on goal, you expected him to score.
Yeah, it was tailor-made for him, wasn't it? And you just thought that the purpose with which he made that run and that stride forward, it was just begging to be played to him. And I thought the moment had gone initially, because I thought Perez has taken it too far to the right, and I thought he was looking for an alternative. But fair play to Perez, shown great vision there and awareness. Flip the ball back towards perfect weight into the path of Harvey Barnes, straight into his stride. And yeah, there was for some reason there was no doubt in finishing that. In some situations, Harvey, when he cuts in, he's very good at it. He cuts in onto his right foot and bends it, outside the far post. And we've seen him score a number of goals like that. But his conversion rate on that is not particularly high, I wouldn't say. A little bit erratic, but when he was through in that position there, more central, bearing down on the keeper, it looked a relatively easy finish. It wasn't, but he made it look very comfortable, didn't he? And like you say, you just get a sense sometimes. There was like no doubt. There was no doubt. It was almost like I don't know. It just panned out just the way Leicester almost organised it today, wasn't it? The way they set their stall out. They realised they weren't playing that fluently. They had the interruption of Maddison coming off, etc. And the missed penalty sort of jolted them a little bit and picked West Ham up. And so they realised, right, we've just got to roll our sleeves up today. It's one of them games. But it seemed almost destiny that someone would go and finish the game off eventually, maybe at the end, because Leicester have that potential, and particularly with Barnes and later in the game Vardy out there as well. More and more West Ham exposed themselves, the more likely you thought it was Leicester would score.
Yeah, Jerry, you've praised Brendan Rodgers already since the full-time whistle. It was a brave call, wasn't it? Taking Yuri off when he did and changing it up a little bit, particularly in that midfield when, well, I don't think any of the starting central midfielders actually ended up on the pitch, did they? So that was a brave call, but clearly it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it's understanding what the situation is, understanding the feeling on the pitch and what you're going to get out of the game. And it wasn't a game for the purist, as simple as that, and I suppose it was one of those days where Yuri couldn't quite get going, or whatever he was trying wasn't quite coming off. The same with Dewsbury Hall. And you've got to understand that as a manager and go, it's not happening going forward. We've got to rely on counter-attacks. We can't get going. And so the tactics changed. And the tactic changed for the better. It's not the way Brendan Rodgers wants to play him verbally, but he understood that in today's game, and I mean today's game against West Ham, that he wasn't going to be allowed, or he wasn't going to be able to play the free-flowing football that he likes to play. And sometimes you have to understand that as a manager, and you have to make those changes. So Brendan Rodgers has to take credit for understanding it wasn't a day where Yuri Tillmans was going to get on the ball and make Leicester tick. And so what he did, he brought the big guns on, defensive guns. He brought fresh legs on, and Mendy, who gets around the pitch and keeps it simple and is a continuity player, does a good defensive job, and basically will rely on counter-attack to try and win the game or make the game safe. So tactically spot on.
It's
and
impressive.
that's what the game needed.
Yeah.
It's what the game needed, Dan, because at half-time we were going about, we're losing the ball on the edge of our own half. Second half, Danny Ward starts pumping it long. We pick second balls up, or we go and press a ball higher up the pitch. West Ham are then, sort of reduced to, playing the ball out wide and crosses coming in where the two centre-halves were dominant.
It is impressive that a manager does see that, Matty, isn't it? And doesn't risk, obviously, letting the game drift a little bit. He made the changes when he felt that they needed to be made. Yeah,
I think Matt mentioned it. You can be sometimes perceived, it could be just to secure things up, be defensive, but at the same time it can look as if you're sort of just holding on to what you got, and it can also go the other way. But obviously today it proved to be the right decision, and now he's got a bit more faith in the squad. He's using more players, making more changes at the right times, and at the minute everything seems to be going Leicester's way. And maybe at the beginning of the season that decision might have been costly in terms of Leicester not dictating the ball, and West Ham might have punished that with the changes, but they were the right changes at the right time. Obviously it wasn't one for the purists, but the ones that came on played the part, and he's believing in the whole squad. And at the minute, everything that he seems to be doing as the team, it seems to be going Leicester's way and really building momentum. It's just such a shame now we've got a unique sort of season where we have this break, because Leicester in really good form. That's the only thing. But in terms of Brendan, he seems to be getting the big calls right, believing in his squad, and they look full of confidence and showing that resilience that perhaps early on the season wasn't there.
Well, thank you very much to Matty Fryatt, to Jerry Taggart, and of course to Matt Elliott. Safe travels back, Matt, when you go back this evening. But that's it for Leicester City then before the World Cup. It's ended pretty well, this first part of the season. It didn't start very well, but it's ended very well. And another 3 points today sends the Foxes up to 12.